I sit perfectly still at the long oak table in the Sunnyvale Estates clubhouse, watching candlelight dance across the cheap crystal glasses the HOA bought with our dues. The community hall stretches around us like a fortress of conformity. The dining room alone is bigger than my entire home office. Outside, snow dusts the manicured lawns pristine white against the darkness. Rebecca, tell everyone your news. Karen Whitaker, our HOA president, says, her realtor smile plastered on like fresh paint. Her grin splits her Botoxed face, crinkling the corners of her eyes behind those designer frames she thinks make her look professional. My neighbor and board secretary, Sarah, straightens in her chair, smoothing the lapel of her crimson designer blazer. The partners called me in yesterday. I'm officially on the fast track, she beams, tossing her perfectly highlighted hair. 2 years ahead of schedule. The board treasurer Marcus reaches over to squeeze her hand, his diamond cufflinks catching the light. That's my girl, the youngest board member with real power in the HOA. I take a small sip of the watered-down Chardonnay, forcing a smile. My simple black blouse suddenly feels painfully inadequate against Sarah's power suit. Marcus, what about that deal you mentioned last week? Karen pivots to the treasurer, who's been checking property values on his phone. He looks up, investment banker confidence radiating from his tailored charcoal suit. Closed it yesterday. $1 million bonus coming next quarter. He winks at me across the table. Early retirement fund at 33. Karen laughs. Your father was just starting to build his practice at your age. Different world, different opportunities, she says proudly, referring to her husband, the vice president, who's conveniently absent tonight. I push the rubbery salmon around my plate, counting minutes until this monthly HOA gala ends. 3 years ago, I sat at the same table announcing my resignation from the corporate marketing department. The silence that followed still rings in my ears like a violation notice. Karen turns to me, her smile tightening just enough that only I would notice. Rebecca, darling, still playing with that little craft business from your garage? The table goes quiet. I can feel their collective attention, the weight of their judgment pressing down like the HOA rule book they love to wave. It's sustainable packaging design, Karen, not crafts. And I moved into a small home office last month. Marcus leans forward, concern painted across his face like cheap makeup. Maybe it's time to consider something more substantial. Rebecca, I know some people at the bank who could use your marketing background. I landed a new contract last week, $50,000. I keep my tone casual like I'm commenting on the weather. Karen nods absently, exchanging a look with Marcus that I've seen 1,000 times. That's nice, dear, look. When will she grow up? Look. That's nice, Karen says right on cue. But is it sustainable? Health insurance alone must be eating through your savings. My phone buzzes in my lap. I glance down discreetly. 7:58 p.m. 2 minutes until the Forbes article goes live. I take another sip of wine. Memories flood back. The cramped garage where I built my first prototypes. The crushing disappointment on Karen's face when I quit corporate life. Her gentle suggestions about therapy for my impulsive decision. Marcus steering neighbors away from my hobby business. A betrayal I discovered through a mutual resident. Their constant interventions disguised as HOA meetings. The secret board group chat I accidentally discovered where they discussed my inevitable failure and when I'd come to my senses. Rebecca has always been creative, Karen says to no one in particular, as if creativity were a disease I'd caught. Remember those little paper dolls she used to make? Sarah laughs. She'd spend hours on those instead of studying for exams. And still manage better grades than you, I murmur in my wine glass. What was that? Sarah's smile hardens. Nothing. I check my phone again. 7:59 p.m. Marcus clears his throat. So, Karen, when do you close on the new enforcement zone? Next week, Karen says, lighting up. 10 acres of control. You'll all have input, of course. All except Rebecca, Sarah teases. She'll be too busy with her craft projects. They laugh, the sound grating against my ears like metal on glass. My phone vibrates, then their phones chime in unison. 8 p.m. The Forbes notification appears on all our screens simultaneously. 30 under 30. Rebecca Carter's Green Revolution nets $12 million in first-year revenue. Karen's wine glass freezes halfway to her lips. Marcus frantically refreshes his phone screen, manicured nail tapping rapidly against the glass. Sarah's mouth falls open, eyes widening as she reads. Marcus drops his fork with a clatter against the fine china. I take another sip of wine, savoring its cheap taste as I watch their faces transform from dismissal to disbelief to desperate calculation. The warm satisfaction spreading through my chest feels better than any HOA approval ever did. Have you ever been underestimated by the people who should believe in you most? I was about to discover how quickly community loyalty can turn to greed. Karen's wine glass hovers in midair. Her knuckles whiten around the stem as her eyes dart across the screen. This says 12 million. Her voice cracks on the final syllable. I take another sip, letting the silence stretch. The grandfather clock in the corner ticks 3 times before I answer. 11.8. To be exact. First-year revenue. Marcus straightens his tie, his banker's mask slipping into place. You never mentioned the revenue scale, Rebecca. He reaches for his phone, thumbs flying. Impressive numbers. That's more than both our salaries combined. Sarah calculates aloud, her lawyer mind already running the math. How did you keep it quiet? Wasn't hard. I finished for her. None of you asked. Karen's eyes well with tears, her manicured hand pressing against her collarbone. Oh, Rebecca, we're so proud. Why didn't you tell us? The familiar ache in my chest hardens into something sharp. Proud now, maybe. What does that mean? Karen sets her glass down with a clink. It means I've seen the group chat. Their faces freeze in perfect unison, like a board photo capturing the exact moment of collective guilt. What group chat? Karen attempts, voice thin. I pull out my phone and read aloud. Rebecca's inevitable failure. The one they created 3 months after I started my company. The one where Marcus told everyone my hippie startup was too risky for neighbors to support. Marcus's face drains of color. You weren't supposed to see that. Or the email where Sarah advised the board not to recommend my services to any resident business. I turn to her, whose perfect posture has suddenly collapsed. Or hear Karen at the last neighborhood barbecue telling her friends I was going through a phase. The silence that follows feels like breaking glass. My phone buzzes. David's text lights up. Did you show them the Goldman Sachs contract yet? Karen spots the message and leans forward. Goldman Sachs? You're working with another buzz. Emma, my assistant, the White House sustainability team, wants to meet Tuesday. Karen's eyebrows shoot toward her receding hairline. A third notification. Dr. Patricia Williams, my mentor, congratulations on Forbes. Well deserved. Marcus clears his throat, leaning toward Karen. We should discuss some community investment opportunities, he whispers, not quite quietly enough. I could introduce you at the next meeting, Karen says, voice brightening. The Johnsons would be thrilled to hear about your success. Sarah taps her crimson fingernails against her wine glass. You'll need proper legal representation now. I could advise you on stop. The word cuts through their chatter like a blade. They stare at me, mouths half open with unfinished schemes. 3 years. My voice remains steady despite the furnace in my chest. For 3 years, you mock my business. Called a hobby, a craft project, a phase. Fine me for commercial activity while your own home offices operated just fine. We were concerned, Karen protests. We wanted what was best for the neighborhood. Marcus told potential buyers to stay away from my company. I lock eyes with him. I heard you at the Peterson open house. That hippie startup isn't worth your time. He swallows, Adam's apple bobbing. Rebecca, that was before you knew I was making money. The words taste bitter. Sarah discouraged the board from recommending my packaging designs to any local vendors. Sarah's face flushes red beneath her makeup. I didn't think you were ready 4 for connections that might actually help me. I push my plate away. And you too? I turned to Karen and Marcus, told everyone at the country club I was finding myself, that I'd come around eventually. Karen adjusts her glasses. Rebecca, perhaps we misjudged, but the board always what? Had my back. Believed in me. The laugh that escapes me sounds foreign to my own ears. You didn't even include me in the board group chat. My phone rings, Emma again. I silence it without looking away from their faces. What changed tonight? I ask quietly. Why am I suddenly worth your time? Karen reaches for my hand. I pull back before she can touch me. 11.8 million. That's what changed. Marcus leans forward, businessman mode activated. Rebecca, this is fantastic news. We should celebrate. And I'd love to talk strategy sometime this week. The board has some thoughts on, I bet you do. I stand up slowly, feeling taller than my 5'6" frame. The candlelight throws my shadow long across the dining room table. Success tastes different when you earn alone. I reach into my pocket and pull out a business card, thick matte black stock with embossed silver lettering. I place it in the center of the table like a gauntlet. Call my assistant if you want a meeting. Their stunned faces stare up at me. 3 years of dismissal. 3 years of undermining. 3 years of waiting for me to fail. I push my chair back, wood scraping against polished floor. Rebecca, don't leave like this, Karen pleads. We're community. The word hangs in the air between us. Is that what we were when you bet against me? I turn toward the door, then pause, remembering the news I received this morning. The news that would shatter their assumptions forever. The secret I'd been saving for dessert. But some revelations deserve their own moment. And this board hasn't earned this one yet. File 2. A month later, Marcus leans against my home office doorframe. His Rolex catches the morning light. His navy suit, tailored within an inch of perfection, stands out against the modern white walls of my converted garage, overlooking the backyard solar array that still technically violates 3 HOA rules. Nice view, he says, whistling low. How much does this set you back monthly? I don't look up from my laptop. Did Emma not tell you I'm booked solid today? Your assistant mentioned something. He wanders in uninvited, running his fingers along my bookshelf. But board members don't need appointments. The word board lands like a slap. 3 voicemails from Karen this morning, each mentioning a different resident she'd contacted as my community manager. Marcus somehow found my biggest client's private number. Sarah drafting partnership agreements I never requested. I close my laptop with a decisive click. Actually, board members especially need appointments. I stand, smoothing my crimson blazer. Through the glass walls, 12 employees hustle between workstations and open spaces. People who believed in my vision when my own neighborhood didn't. Marcus pivots, all charm. Rebecca, you've created something impressive here. More impressive than any of us realized. That's the problem. I walk to the wall displaying our client testimonials. Procter & Gamble, Amazon, Apple, Fortune 500 companies that recognized what the HOA board couldn't see. You didn't realize. Water under the bridge. He pulls a leather portfolio from his briefcase. I've been looking at your growth trajectory. With the right investment strategy, Marcus. My voice cuts through his pitch. Why are you here? His smile falters. To help. That's what board members do. Really? Like when you told the Stevensons not to invest in my risky hippie startup with no viable revenue model? I open my desk drawer, retrieving the valuation report I'd prepared for this inevitable moment. Or when you advised Henderson Capital to wait until this sustainability fad dies down. Color drains from his face. Where did you? People talk, Marcus, especially when they discover they've been misled about a $45 million opportunity. His eyes widen at the figure. The report trembles slightly in his hand. 45 million current valuation. I take the paper back. We've declined 3 acquisition offers already. He recovers quickly, businessman smile returning. All the more reason to bring board expertise on board. I don't mix HOA with business. The words taste like freedom. Especially board members who actively undermine my company. His face hardens. That's ancient history. We didn't understand what you were building. The foundation was always there. You just couldn't see past your own expectations. My phone buzzes. A text from David. Marcus tried contacting me yesterday. Offered investment opportunities if I'd give him our client list. Told him I only take meetings through your office. I placed my phone screen down. Your strategies won't work here, Marcus. My team is loyal because I earned their trust. Something you might want to consider. This isn't personal, Rebecca. It's business. It became personal when Karen called herself my manager to National Polymer yesterday, or when Marcus attempted to schedule a board dinner with 3 of my clients. I walked to the window, watching yellow taxis crawl through the distant city traffic I now visit on my own terms. Our attorneys already filed cease and desist letters. His jaw clenches. You're making a mistake. No, Marcus. I already made the mistake believing the HOA board would celebrate my success instead of trying to control it. A knock interrupts us. Emma, my assistant, stands in the doorway. Professional but protective. Your Business Insider interview is in 5 minutes. Amanda. Marcus glances between us. Business Insider feature story. I nod to Emma. Tell them I'll be right there. After Emma leaves, Marcus studies me with new calculation in his eyes. What exactly are you planning to say about the board? The truth, that sometimes the people who doubt you most are the ones who know you best. I open my office door. And sometimes that's exactly why you need to prove them wrong. He doesn't move. Karen's upset. She's trying to help in her way by calling your clients. Misrepresenting herself. That's not help. It's sabotage. She's proud of you. Now she is. Bitterness rises in my throat. Where was that pride when I was working 18-hour days in this garage? When I maxed out credit cards to make payroll? When I needed someone in my corner instead of violation notices? Marcus straightens his tie. We were concerned. You were embarrassed. I crossed my arms. There's a difference. He walks toward the door, pausing beside me. This publicity campaign, be careful. Some things should stay in the neighborhood. That's the thing about betrayal, Marcus. Once the trust is gone, there's no community, just people who share the same zip code. After he leaves, I sink into my chair, staring at framed photos on my desk. Karen and me at the neighborhood block party, Sarah and me planting flowers that later got fined for being non-compliant. Marcus teaching me the HOA bylaws. My phone lights up with notifications. The Business Insider story has gone live. The comment section floods with stories from other entrepreneurs whose HOAs doubted them. Hundreds of voices echoing my experience. At midnight, my office dark except for my computer screen, I scroll through old neighborhood photos saved in a folder labeled before. Before success changed how they saw me. Before I realized approval and support aren't the same thing. I pull up the contact for our crisis management firm, then call David. It's late. He answers, voice thick with sleep. It's time, I say, watching the city lights below. Time to make some changes. The protective measures we discussed, all of them. I open my calendar, scheduling interviews with media outlets known for exposing HOA corruption, moving forward with IPO preparation, and calling the landmark documentary team tomorrow. The film crew, you're sure? I glance at the folder on my desktop labeled The Real Story. Evidence of every dismissal, every undermining comment, every betrayal. Yes, I say, surprising myself with how calm I feel. They can start filming next week. What happens when the board that betrayed you realizes you're about to tell your story to the world? I was about to find out. A week later, I adjust my blazer in the green room mirror, smoothing the lapel of the charcoal Armani that cost more than Karen's first realtor commission. Outside, the buzz of the CNBC studio hums with pre-interview energy. My phone vibrates with another text from Karen, her 5th this morning. Rebecca, call me. This is getting out of hand. I silence the phone and slip it into my purse. The makeup artist touches up my lipstick, a shade of crimson that matches the company logo. 5 minutes, Miss Carter, the production assistant says, clipboard clutched to her chest. My autobiography announcement hit newsstands yesterday. Building without blueprints. How I created a sustainable empire despite my HO, and the title alone sent shock waves through Sunnyvale Estates. Karen called it dramatic. Marcus labeled it unnecessary. Sarah threatened legal action. The board sent a carefully worded email about considering neighborhood privacy. Too late. We're ready for you, Miss Carter, the assistant says. The studio lights beat down as I take my seat across from Diane Keller, whose sharp eyes have dismantled CEOs twice my age. Today we're speaking with Rebecca Carter, founder of EcoWrap Solutions, whose sustainable packaging revolution has captured both Wall Street attention and environmental awards. Diane's professional smile doesn't reach her eyes. Rebecca, your upcoming autobiography has created quite a stir in suburban circles. Can you tell us what motivated you to write it? I leaned forward slightly, just as Dave and I practiced. Entrepreneurship is portrayed as an individual journey, but the truth is messier. My path involved people who claimed to support me publicly while actively working against me privately. You're referring to your HOA board. I'm referring to anyone who underestimates someone with vision. My phone buzzes in my purse. I know without looking it's Marcus. Last night, he called the local paper claiming I'd exaggerated my company's growth metrics. The reporter fact-checked his statements against our public filings and ran a piece this morning about neighborhood jealousy undermining credibility. Your board treasurer Marcus recently spoke with several publications about your company. Diane says as if reading my mind. How do you respond to his claim that community values contributed to your success? The question hangs between us. I can feel the camera tightening on my face, searching for a crack in my composure. Success teaches you who is really in your corner, I say, keeping my voice steady. The documentary evidence speaks for itself. Documentary evidence. I smile. My team documented every instance of board sabotage over 3 years. Emails discouraging residents from working with me. Recorded conversations dismissing my business model. Text messages predicting my failure. Marcus hadn't known about the recordings. None of them had. 2 hours after the interview, my phone nearly explodes with notifications. Authentic success trends on Twitter. LinkedIn lights up with entrepreneurs sharing similar stories of HOA betrayal. Women in business groups repost clips from my interview with fire emojis. Back at headquarters, David waits in my office with a bottle of champagne. You beautiful, calculating genius, he says, popping the cork. Your board is in full meltdown. I kick off my heels and sink into my chair. How bad? Marcus lost the Henderson account this morning. Turns out Mr. Henderson has a daughter whose business idea he rejected. He watched your interview and called Marcus immediately to terminate their relationship. And Karen, David grins. 3 neighborhood association members asked her to step down from planning the spring fundraiser. Apparently, they don't appreciate her contradictory stories about your success. I take the champagne flute he offers. Sarah? Her firm issued a statement distancing themselves from personal neighborhood matters after clients questioned her judgment. The triumph feels hollow, like winning a game nobody should have to play. But I didn't start this war. I'm just finally fighting back. My phone rings. Emma calling from the front desk. Your employees are here, she says. All 45 of them. They're in the conference room with a cake that says, "Our boss is a badass." Warmth spreads through my chest, replacing the cold anger I've carried for months. I find them crowded into our main conference room, applauding as I enter. Janet from product development steps forward with a framed magazine cover. Forbes with my photo in the headline. The entrepreneur who built an empire while building boundaries. We took a collection, she says, voice wavering. Because you taught us that standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. My throat tightens. This is what community should feel like. Later that night, the voicemail started. Marcus first, his voice slurred with whiskey and resentment. You think you're so special with your fancy company and your interviews. You were always Karen's favorite, even when you were screwing up. Some of us had to work for everything we got. Then Karen crying between words. Rebecca, honey, I didn't mean to hurt you. We were just worried. Please call me back. Sarah's text arrives at midnight. This has gone far enough. We're neighbors. Can we talk? Marcus's email comes last. Formal, stiff address to my corporate account rather than personal. Rebecca, the board requests your presence at a meeting to discuss recent events. Saturday, 2 p.m. at the clubhouse. Dr. Richard Whitaker, Vice President. I forward each message to David with the subject line, Phase 1 complete. Then I open the certified letter that arrived this afternoon. Network letterhead, thick cream paper. Dear Miss Carter, we are pleased to inform you that your proposal, American Nightmare, when HOA Gets Personal, has been approved for a 6-part documentary series. I pick up my phone and dial the executive producer's number. It's Rebecca Carter, I say when she answers. Yes, I'll tell the whole truth. I hang up and stare at the Manhattan skyline twinkling beyond my office window. The empire I built glows in the darkness, a monument to everything they said I couldn't do. Let them come to the meeting. Let them bring their lawyers and their threats and their sudden desire for reconciliation. I've been recording everything since the night they laughed at my $50,000 contract. The truth doesn't need their permission to be told. The Sunnyvale Estates clubhouse looms against the winter sky, its windows glowing amber in the gathering dusk on Saturday. I park my Audi at the end of the circular driveway, deliberately avoiding the space nearest the front door that Karen always reserves for important guests. Tonight, I am neither guest nor neighbor. I am judge and jury. My high heels click against the herringbone brick path. The documentary crew waits discreetly in vans at the property entrance. Cameras ready but hidden. Everything hinges on timing. Karen opens the door before I knock. Her face arranged in a practiced smile that doesn't reach her eyes. Her pearl necklace catches the light from the chandelier above. Rebecca, darling, we've been waiting. She reaches for a hug. I don't return it. The formal meeting room has been staged like a corporate intervention. Marcus stands by the fireplace, one hand resting on the mantel in his favorite power pose. Sarah sits in Karen's leather chair. Legal documents spread across the coffee table. Bob, Karen's husband, the vice president, perches on the arm of the sofa, smartphone clutched in his manicured fingers. Please sit. Marcus gestures to the lone chair opposite them all, the hot seat. I remain standing. I prefer to stand. Thank you. Marcus clears his throat. Rebecca, we've asked you here to discuss some concerns about the neighborhood legacy. His realtor precision shapes each word. The Sunnyvale name has stood for excellence and conformity for 3 generations. Has it? I ask quietly. Sarah shuffles papers, not meeting my eyes. We've drafted some documents regarding neighborhood brand protection. Your recent media appearances have raised concerns. Bob jumps in, his voice honey smooth. We can help manage your public relations, Rebecca. Keep things appropriate. Karen reaches for my hand, her diamond tennis bracelet sparkling under recessed lighting. We've always been proud of you, darling. Always. I step back. Have you? The room falls silent. Sarah finds her voice first. Look, if you continue with these interviews and your ridiculous documentary, I'll have no choice but to pursue legal action for neighborhood defamation. Marcus's jaw tightens. And we'll need to reconsider certain provisions in our enforcement planning. Your reputation could suffer irreparable damage. Bob adds, his lawyer voice emerging. Our ultimatum is simple. Retract your public statements or face consequences. I allow myself 3 deep breaths before responding, savoring the quiet before the storm. I've already faced the consequences of trusting you. I say, my voice steadier than my heartbeat. I open my leather portfolio and remove the first document. This is a transcript of Marcus telling the Stevensons not to invest in my hippie experiment last March. I place it on a coffee table. Marcus blanches. That's taken out of context. I lay down a second document. Karen's lunch at the country club, telling her friends I'd come to my senses by Christmas. September 4th last year. Karen's hand flies to her throat. How did you? The third document lands with a soft thud. Sarah's email to local vendors advising them against working with my company for their packaging redesign. I look directly at her. The contract they eventually signed with me was worth $3 million. The fourth document silences the room. Marcus's remarks at the hospital fundraiser, telling Dr. Richardson I was playing entrepreneur while he donated to his son's actual business venture. They stare at the growing pile of evidence, faces draining of color. I've been documenting everything for months, I explain, laying down my business growth charts next to client testimonials and industry awards. Every achievement I earned while you predicted my failure. Every milestone I reached without your support. Sarah recovers first, voice sharp with desperation. You're recording this, aren't you? That's illegal in Connecticut without consent. I press the intercom button on my phone. You can come in now. The front door opens, and 3 people enter with professional camera equipment. The documentary producer, Allison, nods at me. The Sunnyvale board, I presume. She extends her hand to Marcus, who doesn't take it. Thank you for participating in our documentary series. You've all signed location releases for filming on this property over the years. We're simply exercising those rights. Sarah jumps to her feet. This is a private board meeting. Actually, I interrupt. It's the final scene in a documentary about entrepreneurship and neighborhood dynamics. The network greenlit it last month. Karen sinks into the sofa. You've been planning this. Yes. I stand taller now. My book Advance has already been donated to entrepreneurship programs for young women. I've established a scholarship fund for what I call overlooked dreamers, people whose neighborhoods didn't believe in them. The cameras capture every flicker of emotion across their faces. Karen's carefully applied makeup can't hide her shock. Marcus's authority crumbles visibly. Sarah's professional veneer cracks completely. Bob fumbles with his useless legal threats. I gather my portfolio and straighten my blazer. I don't need your permission to succeed anymore. I remove our neighborhood group photo from my phone's lock screen deliberately while they watch. Then I place my business card on the table. For future reference, my assistant handles all requests, even from the board. Marcus stands, finding his voice at last. Rebecca, you can't just, I already have. I walk toward the door, each step lighter than the last. Behind me, the cameras continue rolling. The documentary producer follows me outside, snow crunching beneath our feet. Stars pierce the winter darkness above us. Are you ready for what comes next? She asks. I look back at the clubhouse that once tried to define me, its grandeur diminished in the rearview mirror of my success. I've been ready my whole life. Sometimes the neighborhood that should lift you up tries to tear you down instead. What I built from their betrayal would surprise even me. I stand at the floor-to-ceiling windows of my Manhattan headquarters 18 months after that gala, when Forbes changed everything. The city sprawls below, a living tapestry of light against the December darkness. My reflection looks back at me. Hair pulled into a loose bun, simple black dress that costs more than my first month's HOA dues, but doesn't advertise it. Miss Carter, my assistant, appears in the doorway. The Google acquisition team sent over their final offer. I smile without turning. 150 million. 152, she corrects, placing the folder on my desk. They added 2 million after touring the San Francisco office. The number should thrill me. Instead, it simply confirms what I've known since that night at the clubhouse table. Value isn't measured by others' approval. Behind me, our Manhattan headquarters hums with purposeful energy. 200 employees across 3 offices now, from the original team of 5 who believed in sustainable packaging when my own neighborhood didn't. The framed Forbes cover hangs near my desk, not as a trophy, but as a reminder of the moment everything changed. The Thanksgiving preparations are complete, Emma adds, scrolling through her tablet. David ordered that wine you like from that vineyard in Oregon. I nod, finally turning from the window. Perfect. 3 hours later, I stand in my loft's open kitchen, watching David carve a turkey while Emma arranges place settings. My mentor Patricia pours wine for our leadership team gathered around my dining table, larger than the clubhouse mahogany monster, but somehow warmer. To another record quarter, David raises his glass. His chief operations officer confidence balanced with genuine warmth. I lift my glass to the people who made it possible. Glasses clink as conversations flow without competition or comparison. No one here needs to prove their worth. They've already shown it through loyalty when it mattered. Your old board called again. Emma whispers when we're alone in the kitchen. Karen's birthday dinner next week. I nod, feeling the old tightness in my chest loosen. I'll be there, and I am. A week later, back at that same Sunnyvale clubhouse dining room, watching candlelight dance across crystal. But everything has changed. Rebecca, Marcus says, his realtor hands steady around his wine glass. The new enforcement zone is lovely this time of year. You should visit sometime. Not when are you coming, but you should visit. The invitation leaves room for my choice. Perhaps in the spring, I answer, a boundary wrapped in politeness. Karen nods, diamond earrings catching the light. That would be lovely, dear. The conversation moves on without lingering expectations. Their respect feels foreign but welcome. Sarah asks genuine questions about my business without offering to help. Marcus mentions market trends without suggesting investment opportunities. They've learned. So have I. Thursday evenings now include therapy, where I slowly unpack years of neighborhood trauma with quiet determination. My TED Talk, When Your Foundation Cracks, Build Your Own, has been viewed 11 million times. Universities invite me to speak about entrepreneurship and neighborhood boundaries. My book sits on bestseller lists between political memoirs and celebrity confessions. This morning, weeks later, I signed the final paperwork for a scholarship program funding 50 students annually, young entrepreneurs from difficult HOA situations. Letters arrive daily from people who found courage in my story. Tonight, Christmas Eve, I choose to work alone in my office, not from loneliness but from purpose. The city glitters below, peaceful in its evening hush. My reflection in the window shows both who I was and who I've become. I pick up my phone, recording a voicemail for tomorrow. Merry Christmas, team. Thank you for believing when it mattered. On my desk, an IPO announcement letter awaits my signature. Beside it sits the documentary Emmy for Outstanding Biography. But what catches my eye is the original business plan I wrote in my tiny garage, coffee-stained and covered in ambitious notes. I signed the IPO paperwork with steady strokes, a smile playing at my lips. I am Rebecca Carter, and I build businesses that matter, with or without permission. And somewhere in Sunnyvale Estates, Karen Whitaker is finally learning the one rule she never wrote. The truth always wins.